What's up, YouTube? It's your girl Syd, and I'm back with another video today. Today I'm going to be talking about working as a CNA while you're still in nursing school. But before we get into that, please be sure to like this video. If you're new here, go ahead and turn on that notification bell and hit that subscription button. And if you're an oldie but a goodie, welcome back. Please be sure to turn on your notifications and comment down below. All right, so before we get in this video, I'm just going to be covering a few topics about what all it takes to become a CNA, how you maintain your license after you get it, the kind of work that I do working in a hospital as opposed to being a CNA in a nursing home, the kind of shifts I work, expectations, and really just anything else that can come with the job. So sometimes you'll have more than one role to fulfill, or you may have to be flexible. So I'm going to be covering all of those things in this video. So let's get into it. And then after that, you have to sit for a written portion of an exam, and then you do a skills portion of a exam. And after that, you find out if you passed your test or not. And once you know if you passed, then you can begin working as a CNA if you would like, or whatever you want to do with that. I got my CNA license in high school, and I've kept it valid since then. Keeping your license valid isn't really hard. You have to work a certain amount of hours within the allotted time frame that they put on the little renewal form they mail you, and submit that form, have it signed by the proper people, and then you should be good to go. Yeah, so that's pretty much it for becoming a CNA. The written test I think was about 100 questions, if not shorter, and the skills portion, you just get assigned a skill at random, and you're doing it on one of your classmates in front of the proctor person. And yeah, that's pretty much it with that. I do think that working as a CNA while in nursing school is helpful, especially given the fact that most of us are doing distance learning or virtual learning at this current moment. We don't really know when we're going to be back in the physical clinical setting. Most of us don't anyway. And if we are allowed to go back at the start of this school year, we don't know how long that's going to last. So it's a little bit of a tricky situation with the clinical aspect of school. And though your CNA duties are not the same as your student nurse duties, being in the physical clinical setting helps a ton. You get very comfortable being in the environment. You get familiar with how you should introduce yourself to patients. You get kind of adjusted to whatever interruptions occur during the day. Excuse me. Oh. And then as a CNA working in the hospital, you typically have more patients than you would as a student nurse. So allowing you to kind of deal with a little bit more of a patient load, but less of a workload compared to an RN. You kind of just get adjusted to having a little bit more responsibility, because when you're typically as a student nurse, you have one patient to focus on the whole time you're at clinical for your 12 hours or your 2 days or whatever the case may be for you. I personally tend to have 10 patients on my floor. On the other floors that I've worked on, the most I've had at a time is 18. So having to deal with that many patients at one time is a lot, but as an RN, typically the most they usually have is 5. So if you think about the duties of an RN compared to the duties of a CNA, you kind of just have to deal with that responsibility, and you just get adjusted to having a lot more to do. And I think that personally will help me in the long run with managing my time, managing my responsibilities after I finish nursing school and start working as a RN. Also, working as a tech, it is very labor intensive work. You have totals sometimes you have patients that are selves, and that's nice, but every now and then you'll have some totals, which means they need total care. You have to turn them every 2 hours. You might have to reposition them every so often, changing their brief or making sure that their catheters are clean, assisting people to the bathroom, whether they're a standby or a one person assist. If they're a 2-person assist, you may have to do that. Sometimes you're not really sure how a patient gets up because they're new, or if they can get up, you don't really know how sturdy they're going to be. If they're going to be stable, if they need a walker. So sometimes it's best to have multiple people in there so that you don't put all of that labor intensive work on yourself, and you can save yourself and the patient from falling or any kind of injury, because we don't need that. The other thing about working as a CNA in the hospital is that typically you're scheduled for 12-hour shifts. I'm always scheduled for 12-hour shifts, whether I work a day shift or a night shift, unless I pick up extra hours. If I pick up extra hours, I pick up for either an 8-hour shift or a 4-hour shift. And then there are the rare occasions where I stay over or come in early and work an extra 4 hours before or after my 12-hour shift for a 16-hour total in one day. I know that sounds a little bit crazy, but sometimes we just get a little short-staffed, and I do volunteer to help occasionally. I don't do that too often because I know myself, I know my body, I know I'll be exhausted, and it's just not the best for me personally to work that long. So I don't do that too often. But during school, when school's in session, I typically work weekends only, and that's just what works best for me. I'll usually work a Friday night, Saturday night, and then if I do work Sunday, it's not for the full shift, or I'll do 4 hours on the tail end of a day shift, which will be 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. and 4 hours on the beginning of a night shift, which will be 7 p.m. to 11 p.m. So I still cut back on my hours during school just because school is the priority. That's the main focus. That's what I'm working to pay for. So I do cut my hours back during school just so that I can fully focus and be successful, because I'm not trying to waste my time. The next thing is working as a CNA. A lot of people think you just, wipe people's butts all day, and that's not really the case. Yeah, that's a part of the job, but that's not the only thing we do. And quite frankly, the hospital wouldn't function without us, in my opinion. If we weren't there, the RNs would have so much more to do, and it just would make everybody's life a little bit more hectic. And I also think that working as a tech while you're in school allows you to appreciate them more once you become an RN. Because sometimes the techs get busy, and some RNs will stop what they're doing and do whatever they were going to ask you to do themselves because they see that you're busy. And I appreciate people like that. The people that don't do that, it's not a big deal to me. It's just one of those things where, I notice it and I appreciate it, and it makes me feel like they understand that, it's a lot going on sometimes, and I may not be able to get to do everything that I'm being asked to do as soon as I'm being asked to do it. So I do think that it helps you appreciate your techs more once you get on to your next position in nursing. And I do think that it helps you prepare for your role as a nurse, because you have a heavier patient load and you have more responsibilities. And though those responsibilities do change once you become an RN, I just think that it is very beneficial to kind of just get used to having more responsibility, even though those are different responsibilities. Okay, so next topic we're going to get into is my personal role as a CNA, NA1 healthcare tech at my facility, and what all my responsibilities are in the hospital that I work in. So I work night shift. We all know that by now. Or if you don't, now you do. I work night shift, and occasionally I pick up on day shift, which is super rare. Love my nights, love them. But my role either way is if someone needs help getting to the bathroom. So my role either way is helping people with their activities of daily living, if they need it, helping patients eat if they need to be fed or if they need their meals set up, making sure that patients that need to be turned every 2 hours get turned, making sure that I check vitals. We check vitals every 4 hours at my facility on my floor. So Q4 vitals, checking blood sugars, whether that's AC and HS, Q4, Q6, sometimes we have Q2, sometimes we have Q8. So all of that, I work on a telemetry floor, so I do also make sure that patients are keeping their telemetry monitors on, that none of their leads come off, that the batteries are still fresh, making sure that if they're connected to an O2 sensor on their finger, that that's connected and stays on throughout the night or day. I also have to sometimes transport patients. So if the patient needs to go for a procedure or to MRI or CT or ultrasound, sometimes I have to transport them for that. There's a number of things that are a part of my role as a tech in the hospital, but that's just a few things I can think of off the top of my head. When I work day shift, we do patient baths. We change linen. We do that at nighttime too. We do it a little balanced, but it's more commonly done during the day because, nighttime, most people want to sleep. Still offer the bath, still change linen if necessary. Whatever I can do to make them the most comfortable, that's what I would like to do. And every now and then you'll have to be a sitter. So a sitter or patient safety attendant is exactly what it sounds like. You're sitting with the patient to make sure that they're safe, make sure that they aren't causing harm to themselves or others. Sometimes you're just sitting with them to make sure that you reorient them, because every now and then you may get a confused patient or something of that nature. So sometimes I do get pulled to sit with patients. It's not my favorite thing in the world, but I do it. Everybody has to have their turn at being pulled to sit or being pulled to float somewhere to sit. So that's a part of the job. And I also try to make sure that no matter what, I try to treat the patients like I would want to be treated, or like I would want my family members to be treated, because I've heard some horror stories and I've seen patients come in from other places and they tell us how they appreciate us so much, or that they were treated so badly somewhere or something like that. And I never want to hear that, especially about myself, or hear that somebody said that about me. And I just know that I would want to be treated the same way as I'm treating them. So I always try to do my best to make sure I provide the best care for my patients and make them the most comfortable. If they say that they're in pain, I'll ask them, what's your pain on a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being the worst? Is it a sharp pain, shooting pain, radiating pain? Does it burn? Things of that nature. So that I can be sure to go tell the nurse, explain to them how the patient described it to me, so that we can maybe get them some medication or use some ice packs or a cooling blanket or a warming blanket or something. Anything, even if it's non-pharmaceutical, any kind of intervention to make them more comfortable. I try my best to do everything I can, because if it was my mom or grandma or dad or sister or cousin or whatever, I would want somebody to do the same thing for them. Even if it was me, I would want somebody to do the same thing for me. So I try to do my best to treat everyone the best of my ability. And the last thing, because I know some people are probably going to ask, Working as a CNA does pay pretty well. I think starting out, if you do like home health, I think you can start out at about $10 or $12 an hour. I'm not 100% sure. I know that's what it was running when I was in high school, and that was 5+ years ago. I'm not sure if that's changed at all, but it does pay pretty well. I'm an as needed PRN, which means as needed night shift tech, and I make really good money to only be as needed. And then you have to factor in that sometimes you get paid extra for working on the weekends, holiday pay, all of that, the night shift differential. If you're working during crisis pay, or like you get crisis pay for working as an incentive shift, which means they just pay you extra to come in because they needed some help on the floor or something. So it does pay pretty well. I'm not going to disclose how much because it's not necessary, but it does pay well. And if you are part-time or even full-time, you'll see the difference with that as well. I work full-time hours when I'm not in school, so it basically puts me in overtime every time I work when I'm not in school. Our pay periods are 2 weeks, and I typically work 4 shifts each week when I'm not in school. So whether that's 4 in a row, which I typically prefer to do, I like stacking my shifts better, or sometimes I'll do 5 shifts in a week where I do like 3 and then a couple days off and then 2, or 2 and then a day off and 3. Whatever it is, whatever floats my boat. I try to keep at least 8 shifts every 2 weeks when I'm not in school, and that is pretty nice for me. So yeah, I think that's everything that I wanted to cover. I have my little list here in front of me, so when you see me looking down, I'm just looking at my little checklist to make sure that I didn't forget anything that I wanted to discuss with you all in this video. I hope you all like this kind of video and that it's helpful to you. If you have any questions for me, please be sure to leave them in the comments below. Please be sure to like this video, hit that subscribe button, and turn on your notification bell so that you don't miss anything else. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you all in my next video.